on Facebook. Okay, we're going on now. I think we are like 56% on. Should be on. Okay. All right. Welcome to another edition, the second edition actually, of um, sports banter, football banter with Jesse. And today, our people who are watching us online are going to have the joy of listening to Mr. Shodipo Abiodun, who we call ISR. He's based in Canada, and ISR means International Sports Review. For the last 30 years, this man has lived and breathed sports. If you want to know about any African player, football club, is a guy that you need to go to. And also joining me is Mr. Oluwasuni, who is a consultant that's based in South Africa. He's also an avid Arsenal. He was with us last week, and then he's found time to also get involved with us today. The last person that should be with us, actually, I think there's a connection problem. Is going to join us, soon, and then we're going to carry on. So once we get into today's banter, let's see what the today's games. There are a bit, of surprising results, in there. In the English Premier League, Nottingham Forest has defeated Manchester City 1-0. That is a top of the table clash that determines who basically comes third. And nobody believed that Manchester City are going to be dropping points at this stage. People thought they were going to go on a run. So we're going to discuss that. Brighton and Hove Albion, they had a bit of the e-cup just about a month, 2 months ago. It looks like they turned the corner and they've kept winning. So they beat Fulham 2-1. Crystal Palace, another team that's been stuttering of late, has really found their shooting boots, and now they beat Ipswich Town, the whipping boys of the Premier League, 1-0. And then Liverpool, the team that I support, beat Southampton 3-1, and that meant that they are now 16 points, 16 points ahead of Arsenal. So if Arsenal wins the two games in hand, they're still going to have to chase, 10 points. So we'll come to that. Now, currently, it's not 34 minutes. Brentford is playing Aston Villa, but these are games that really do not matter in the scheme of things. So, welcome once again, Mr. Suni. This is now 16 points. Can Arsenal go anywhere near that?
There are usually two types of answers to this question. There is the honest, practical, pragmatic answer, which is no, it's tough. And then there is the fanatical answer. Of course, we're bringing it home. So you can have your pick. But in all fairness, I think this season maybe over for Arsenal already. And I apologize to.
So
Yes.
I'm doing something on my phone, a live program, and I barely hear. Is it the volume on my phone or from the source?
Okay, so I think the season is over for Arsenal. We just need to do our best.
Come on, help me see. I've off the video. What's happening?
And this is with all due respect
to my
fellow Arsenal fanatics who might think otherwise, but I like to sleep easy at night. I like not to over fantasize. It looks like it's going to take a miracle like Liverpool probably pulling out of the EPL, which is impossible for Arsenal to get the top spot this season. So I think we should just hope for a better next season. let's hope, like I said last week, let's hope all of the lessons from this season and the last two seasons have been learned, and Arteta does the needful next season, hire the right strikers or hire the strikers that we need, and do all the other necessary needfuls. And
Yeah.
let's see
But
next season.
how did we
And
get in?
I know what you're about to
Because
say. It's
no,
next season. It's
no, that's
Netflix.
not even what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say was that when Klopp was going to leave, right, in the last season of Klopp, right,
Yes.
or the penultimate season, uh, Liverpool were on the down because the average age of the players was too high. So if you look at Firmino was now 32, Sadio Mane was now 31, and all of the senior players, even the captain Anderson, was coming to 32. So basically, you need to reduce the average age of the team, and that was what Klopp was doing. Arsenal, in those two seasons, in fairness to Arsenal, they were the challengers to the perennial winners, Manchester City, and they were able to go toe to toe with them. In fact, some of us
Yeah.
believed that
Yeah.
if Arteta was, a more experienced manager, he should have won two English Premier Leagues, right? So um, now that was a team that came together in those last 2 years. They pushed
Yes.
Manchester the first year, they pushed them the second year, and we thought that this season,
Would
when
have been our season.
Klopp actually left the stage and we had a new coach, and a younger team, that Arsenal are going to go on, kick on, and then win the league. This was their year. But suddenly, everything did not work out. Some of people have attributed it to many things. So, okay, going into this season, they knew that they needed a striker. The striker was not in place. They knew that they need to work on the injury records. There was nothing that was done in that way. And then in the back room, Edu, who was the guy that was bringing all of these guys together, decided, oh, I don't want the Arsenal project anymore. I'm going off to Nottingham, Forest, to look at your project. What exactly? Where do you pinpoint what actually is it with the Arteta, the coach? Is it with the backroom staff or the ownership? I know we discussed it last season, but I thought 16 points is untenable for a team that was supposed to be winning this league.
Look, I know you are familiar with the Swiss cheese concept.
Okay. You can,
Usually
for
used
the benefit of our listeners, you can just a brief explanation of it.
so it's a model used in aviation.
Okay.
Aviation generally has got multiple moving parts.
Mhm.
Scheduling, maintenance, selling tickets, pilots, keeping to the X number of hours of rest prior to a flight. The pilot, the first officer, and the engineers working together, having a vibe, and all of those kind of things. And the general, and I mean, it becomes so there are too many. There are too many hands in the kitchen. There are too many people. There are too many chefs in the kitchen.
Okay.
And the general or the model then says that so the Swiss cheese has got holes in it. So it comes in slices and it's got holes in it. So the general thinking in aviation, or the leading thought, is that you need to do your best to ensure that all of the holes, or any set of holes in a pack of Swiss cheese doesn't align. Once they all align and you can shine light through it, there's a likelihood of an unnecessary or unexpected unplanned event happening. And we've had cases in history where, unfortunately, those holes lined up. The Tenerife accident, which is potentially the biggest air accident in history, which incidentally actually happened on the land, on the ground, before the planes took off, was one such
Mhm.
example. And I think it looks like, in the case of Arsenal, some of the holes in the Swiss cheese aligned, unfortunately. You pointed out to some of them. The decision not to hire a striker, despite the fact that, like I said last week, I'm a learner when it comes to football analysis and all that. I only just started watching football avidly, almost avidly. I must also confess, like in the last 2 years, I've just been a passive football observer, and I also knew that Arsenal needed a striker. So it's like a kid in kindergarten. Yeah, so it's like a kid in kindergarten knowing that uh, the amount of salt mommy is adding to the soup, or that is adding to the soup is not enough. That's the case here. So it looks like it's rather obvious. And then you also pointed out the fact that the gentleman leading the backroom efforts, which is almost as important as whatever happens in the front room, also
Edu.
left.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that should have been prevented. I've been in positions where I'm managing teams, and I have insisted that certain people who have the right to leave and who are actually interested in leaving, either because the project we're working on has become boring for them, no longer satisfactory, or what have you. But I know that having them, sometimes they might not even be subject matter experts per se, but having them in the team helps rally the team. I have actually had, in my experience, had to move mountains to keep them, if only for a short period, whilst I look for their replacement. So I would expect that, and I can't compare myself or my management practice to be as mature as that of the team behind Arsenal. Like I said, I'm a kindergartner here. So I would have expected that they do something to have kept the
About
back
it.
office.
Okay.
Yes.
Hold it there,
And
please. Let me go to Mr. Shodipo. Yeah. Shodipo is ISR. I'm comfortable with ISR, if you don't mind. International
Yeah,
sport.
exactly.
That is our international sports expert. Is good at it. Is an avid Real Madrid, supporter. Is a Madrid star. So, um, looking into the Premier League and looking into the state of Arsenal, do you rate Ateta?
Well, thank you so much. Like I used to say, Jesse, and Mr. Oluwasuni and Larry. I think you can hear me very well.
yes,
Yeah,
perfectly.
yeah,
All
perfectly.
right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, like he said, time here we are. We're still early morning, early afternoon here in Winnipeg, Canada, and I'm happy to see you guys online. Well,
All
the
right.
story of Arsenal. The story of Arsenal. Well, like Mr. Oluwasuni said, that he's not an expert here, he's this and that, but he's spot on with his analysis. Because when you look at football, there is one thing that we say in football: all the departments
Yeah.
must be well fitted. If you're actually going to, go for any major honor in any season, your defense, your midfield, your attack must be intact. Now, there is one thing I want us to look at, and that is, I was telling some of my friends, some sport analysts, football aficionados, during the beginning of the season, that this season is going to be problematic for everything. And why do I say so? And that is one of the things Arsenal did not consider. If you look at it nowadays, and you can see a lot of big players, player like Carvajal, a player like Rodri, you can see before they actually pick up major injuries, we're actually complaining about the timetable. And I was telling people that with the timetable that we have nowadays, you can see now, in a week's time, the players will be going for international break. And that is when all managers pray, supporters of club praise. I know Jesse will be praying then because he knows Liverpool has Champions League and all the rest. We always praying. But when you look at the timetable, when you look at football fixture nowadays, it is jam-packed. It is not like what we have in the past. And so Arsenal did not foresee this. You can see now, Kai Havertz, injured. You understand? Even the match
Mhm.
they play against PSV, they were very lucky. There was no striker. So when Arsenal was doing the business during the summer, they did not projected having a striker. And let me tell you something. If that continues to happen, you will continue to see that the fans will run out of patience. And at the end of the day, Ateta will go.
So,
At a particular time, I was discussing with
do you
Jason.
rate him? Yeah, because
I was discussing with Jason that each club has its own model. Each club has its own model. When club left, you can see and a slot came in. And his name is slotted in well. Why? Why did he slot in well? Because Liverpool has a model. Diego Jota is there. David Nuna is there. This Dutch guy is there. You can see the strikers that Liverpool are having. And when you look at it, Gabriel Jesus is already aging. He has history of injury. So Arsenal did not do well during the summer transfer.
So what you're saying now is that Arteta has a lot of blame, in this because he knew that he was lacking in the striking department, right? And instead, because anyway, let me just break it down this way. I've read a lot of Arsenal supporters and non-Arsenal supporters' verdict on Arteta. So some of the guys who love Arteta, it was unfortunate that we lost Larry. The Arsenal fans who love Arteta said, "Oh, when he picked us up, the 6 on the table. But right now, when he came, we became challengers again, and we started to play exciting football since Arsene Wenger left." I take that. That is valid, as a point. Sorry, man. But the guys who say they don't like Arteta, look at how much he's been given to spend. Up to date, I think he has spent around over 700 million pounds, on assembling his team. He's been there. So we have Mr. Larry back. So he's been there for 5 years, in which he only won FA Cup. So for me personally, as a Liverpool fan, what I looked at was I'm throwing this at Mr. Asuni. He's going to come back before I go to Mr. Larry, who's go back. As a manager, you see your team, the key members of your team, and Saka was one. I told Arsenal fans from day one, I said, look, Arsenal's going to have problem because of this simple issue. When Saka goes to the English national team, it is 90% committed. In fact, 99% committed to the English national team. He plays all the games. When he's in Arsenal, he plays all the games. So let's say 99% on both sides. That for the last 3 to 4 years. You knew that at some point a major injury crisis is going to arise. And for me, and the size of the team of Arsenal, you had Osimhen having problems at Napoli, right? Napoli does not want to sell Osimhen. What you could have done is to take Osimhen on loan the same way Galatasaray, or is paying? No, it's not Gala that is paying for. Is it Galatasaray?
It's Galatasaray. It's Galatasaray.
The same way Galatasaray took Osimhen on loan. I thought with Osimhen in the middle of that pack, it's going to take a lot of the workload away from Saka. And it's going to allow this German player that also got injury now.
Kai Havertz.
Yeah. To operate in the same way he operates, in the German national team. With those key elements in place, I thought Arsenal they would like leading 10 points. Yeah. They'll be leading the league 10 points by now. So, Mr. Suni, do you take on board this point, or are you Arteta lover or Arteta hater? So let's know where you stand.
I'm an Arsenal lover. If
political answer, yeah.
I'll be honest. I like Arteta's fashion sense.
Okay.
And to be honest, to be fair to him, I also think that he's got a good head on his shoulders. I think so far he's done his best, and it's also always easy for people people who are observing. So we have observers have certain powers that people who are in the thick of things don't necessarily have.
Mhm.
And it looks as if it's also one of the reasons we advise business owners to take a break away from their business, to go work on their business, to go take a bird's eye view of their business, look at the entire value chain, and see what really needs to be improved. But whilst answering customer care calls and dealing with developers and dealing with suppliers and all that, it gets too tedious, and they rely on past knowledge of the business and not probably on what is going on in the moment, and they might miss out on great opportunities. And I think that's and I'm being fair to Ateta here, because I'm not wearing his shoes, and I think it's only fair to be that way. I think that's the case with Ateta. I think he hasn't taken a step back to see some of the things that you have pointed out, that Mr. Shodipo has pointed out, that tons of honest fans and haters have also pointed out. And I think that's the challenge. And just a quick, Mourinho seems to be able to do both things at the same time,
Mhm.
to be inside the thick of things, and also by measure of clairvoyance or made up clairvoyance, also see what is going on around. And I am, unfortunately, there will be no results. I am willing to take a bet that if Mourinho was coaching Arsenal, the conversation today would have been different. Perhaps Osimhen would have been playing for Arsenal, like you have rightly pointed out. And if not Osimhen, someone of his caliber, someone in his court, would be doing what I think that is one of the things that separates. So when people say Mourinho is arrogant, I thought so too at first. Then I read his biography. I paid attention to some of the interviews he gave and all that. And his arrogance is justified. He has that special that it might be that's tiny special layer that just gives him the edge. Add to that the fact that he's also a troublemaker. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me go to Mr. Larry now. Um, Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I want to ask you a controversial one because I know you like to take on controversial stuff, right? Some of the African supporters of Arsenal have said that while Ateta might not be racist, he does not like black players that much from Africa. Um, because I looked at the recruitment. I don't believe in that anyway. You understand, but whatever is out there from supporters, we can look at it and analyze it. Um, why did this Marino? It likes to go back to Spain, you know, and sign some of these other players. So, is there a reason why he doesn't seem to favor African players?
Well, I wouldn't know if he's actually having nursing biases against African players. But I think what I have observed concerning Ateta's recruitment policy, uh, I would say that it's been fair to African players, because I look at the few ones in his squad. There have been some element of what I say consistency. Like if you look at someone like Thomas Partey, uh, he has given him considerable amount of time, play time. We all know what happened to Saka. Saka was played to a point that he had to. This is the longest. Perhaps this is the longest time he's off. I think it's not even perhaps. It's actually the longest time it's been off. It's been taken off. Uh, the It's been taken off the what do I call it
Playing
now?
for
The
Arsenal?
squad
Yeah, okay.
from playing for Arsenal since December. and this is the third month, and he might not even be back until April. And we also know that Ethan Nwaneri, since the lad has been playing, is been favorable
Now, a quick one there,
to
please.
Ethan.
Let me clarify what I meant by African players. African players that I'm referring to are the players that were born in Africa and came into the team. Saka is British, right? As they say, he's British. Ethan Nwaneri is British. They are not going to play for Nigeria. They're not going to play for any African team. So when I look in all of that team, even Urian Timber is not African in the sense that we are talking about it now, in terms of nationality, not of skin color.
Mm.
For instance, the Egyptian king that we've got in Liverpool, Mamouche, they are not black, but they are Africans. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but when you look at the Arsenal team, Partey seems to be the only African player that they've got. And I remember Mourinho saying that in every of his teams, he always finds an African number 9 that plays for him. Though, no, we're not saying everybody should go and get an African number 9. But in Arsenal team, compared to the other Premier League clubs around number 1 to 10, the top 5 or top 6, it seems to be the only team that has only one African player in its ranks. That's what I mean.
Well, I can say this. I know where Morio is coming from. You're talking about the physical strength of an African person taking on number 9 position. It takes a lot. It will take a lot of kicks from the opponent, and look at someone of what's it called now? This guy in Galatasaray, his physique.
Osimhen.
Yes, Osimhen. You look at how many people tell them to excuse me. Sorry. You look at how many people he has been able to wrestle. If you've seen the African Cup of Nations, you could see that it was more or less like someone who fits the kind of a metaphor of Kasongo. You could hardly, it was difficult to pull him down, to bring him down. And in the image, sorry, this is this is Nigeria. They are showing me.
Okay, you're
Also,
having issues with the light issues there. We know,
yes, I just
we're developing.
okay.
It's going
Now,
to get better.
Amen.
if you look at all these things, you could actually say that, okay, come to a conclusion that Africans are tough to get. They are tough, and they are tough when they are playing. So I know where Mourinho is coming from, but Arteta seemed to be like someone described Arteta. I can't remember one of the pundits. He said Arteta is Mourinho light. Mourinho light. So, but the truth is that to have played against 10 men against Man City, and people were criticizing him that he packed the bus. But you can see what happened 11 versus 11, Liverpool versus PSG. They put the whole, including the keeper, they put everybody behind. And, it's just, I was surprised because that thing still remains a mystery to me, how they were able to concede against PSG. Now, they were only saying that, the pundits, what they were saying is that, oh, Liverpool was very, very resilient. Liverpool was resilient, and they were being unfair. They've been unfair to Arteta and his team. So I'll close with that.
Okay, let me go to Mr. Shedipo. ISR. Now you can
Oh,
look at it.
ISR is okay. ISR
Okay,
is okay.
ISR, you can look at it dispassionately. Yeah. One of the things that we've seen in the EPL this season is the fact that two proteges of Pep run Arsenal and Chelsea, and they're all trying to play tiki taka. They're following the Johan Cruyff, Barcelona game plan. And when when Pep played without a known striker, and he won, guys are now saying, okay, yeah, I can play without a striker and an out and out striker, and I can still win the league. Do you think this, herd mentality of just following the leader or following Pep is what is responsible for both Arteta's and Maresca's, problems when it comes, to their teams? Because, yeah, you could say Chelsea have a known striker, which is the Senegalese, Jackson. But when you look at sometimes the way he plays, it's not like a Drogba or like Alan, for instance. So we saw that Pep actually find out that if he was going to beat Liverpool at his, to the title, he needed an out and out striker, and he went for Haaland. And we saw that in the first season, this guy just blew everybody away. So, what do you think? Do you think if do you think we're in the era of a new footballing philosophy? Because what Larry was saying, for me as a Liverpool supporter, I think that is a bit wrong in the sense that since Klopp came in, we've been wearing teams down and we've been on the front foot and we're scoring. But when it came, this tactic, so we call Slot, the adaptive one, because this guy is all about the next game, the next opponent, and the best way to play them. So when he was going to play Man City, he's beaten them 2 times this season. He said, okay, take the ball. When they came to Anfield, go and watch the game. It is out and out, striking, and we beat them in Anfield. But when we went to the Etihad, he said, okay, Man City, have the ball. Then I'll do all my game off the ball. And he won. So he used the same, strategy against PSG, but on the day, the personnel did not carry it out. Even at that, we still produce a result against, Arsenal that, probably played the draw, lost the game. So my point is this: is Arteta, 2 questions you're going to ask, is Arteta and Maresca following blindly what Pep is doing? One. Number two, is the football philosophy of 2025 going away from tiki taka to, okay, guys, I'm going to be adaptable to every team and every game? What do you think?
Well, I will start with the second point.
Okay.
If you look at successful managers, and I've always told people that at a point in time, Pep will be stopped. A good coach must have a plan A, plan B, and plan C, even a plan D. And you rightly said, it is your opponents that determines which kind of football you are going to play per time.
Okay.
And that is the philosophy of successful coaches. When you look at it very well, part of the problem that Guardiola has is sticking to tiki taka. When you don't have a plan B, you will discover there are some clubs that are going to play you at your strength. They know your plan. They know what you're going to do. And let me give you an example. Sorry that I may want to shift a bit, but I'm using it as an example.
Feel free.
You
It's
know,
football. We cover
yeah,
everything. It's football.
when the drop for knockout was done, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, this is the time Manchester City is going to win Real Madrid," and I was happy. I said, "Bring them on." Why do I say that? I knew the weakness of Manchester City, and I knew the strength of Real Madrid. If they bring Man City back again, even if they are fully fit, we will still defeat them. Because a good manager, a good coach, will always look at a team like what you said, and that is what Andy Slot is doing. That is a good coach. So in 2025, the tactics has not changed. But when you see good managers approach a game depending on the opponent. And when you look at it, they will play tiki taka, they will play. But if you have good players on the wings that are very fast, people like Vinicius Junior, people like Rodrigo, they will take you to the cleaner. They only needed 1 or 2 opportunities, and before you know it, the goal have come. So when you look at it, like what you said, they're supposed to evolve their own game plan, both Maresca and Arteta. And it goes down to what I've said earlier on. Each club has its own philosophy. Each club has its own approach. Each club has its own model. And that is why you see when teams are hiring coaches, they look at coaches that fits into their philosophy, into their, So when an slot came, you might look at it that this guy is not a no name, but I knew he's going to do well because I've seen him in the Dutch league. I saw what he was doing, and like I think it's Olu Asuni that mentioned it the other time. I would say go back memory lane. Somebody like Mourinho, the success that Real Madrid had, winning back to back, it was Mourinho that signed all the players. And at times, a coach has to put down his foot. And this is what I want to do. This is what that needed to be done. And going back again, like we said earlier on, the departure of Edu gave them a problem. Your sporting director is as good as your team. You might not know. Sporting director do a lot of job. Like the season will soon close now. If you look at good sporting directors, they will have been scouting players all over the world. They will have looked at departments where the clubs are lacking. And they will have been monitoring players. Players are not just signed for clubs over the night. We will just say, okay, a club signed this player. But the sporting department does a lot of job. Overhauling. They look at it, okay, in the striking area. Wow. This is just to tell you that Aston Villa just scored, a goal against Brentford. So it's Aston Villa 1. So maybe we'll be doing this at times, giving our viewers of people live score.
It's actually good that you let me know. I've got my screen on, but I'm alternating between so many.
Aston Villa just scored a beautiful goal.
Fantastic. 50 minutes on the clock.
Yes, it's 50 minutes on the clock. And you should know the guy that scored the goal. I should not tell you that guy.
Ollie Watkins. It's Ollie Watkins.
Ollie Watkins, yes. Arsenal needed this kind of player in their fold, but I know Villa will never, give out such players to Arsenal.
Just to back what you're saying, right? 2 seasons ago, Cody Gakpo, was going to be signed by Manchester United.
Okay.
And Klopp said, "Oh, I like this player. It's going to be fantastic. Guys, go and get him."
Yeah.
So I'm coming to a point you raised by making these arguments. Now, there's another player called Gravenberch.
Yes, Gravenberch.
And when we went on for him the year before, and Bayern said, no, he's not available. But the next season, the next summer, they said, okay, because we're getting
Villa just got second goal.
Okay.
Morgan
Rogers.
He's a player I love so much. Watch out for this guy.
Morgan Rogers. Yeah, Morgan Rogers.
Scored against Manchester City. Scoring against even the
He's a fantastic man.
I'm monitoring the progress of this guy.
The guy came, the funny thing, he came from the championship just a year ago. He was playing in the championship. Okay.
Yeah.
I was saying,
that's the work of a good scout, the sporting director of Aston Villa.
So Gravenberch became surplus requirement, and Klopp said, "I need this guy for my rebuild." And if you look at the first 2 seasons of Gravenberch, Klopp was using him seldomly, right?
Yeah.
Then Slot came in. Slot has not, the scary thing about Liverpool that people don't realize is Slot has not assembled his own team yet.
Yeah.
That is the scary thing about this. But look at, we went after the Spanish midfielder. He told Liverpool, I wanted to come, and it didn't come. Is it Ari? No, it's not Arrizabalaga. What's the name of this, Spanish, winger that we went for? Arsenal also wants him next season.
Is it Zubimendi?
Zubimendi, yeah, we went for Zubimendi.
Right? That's the Real Sociedad player.
Yeah, so
fantastic player.
That is a guy.
He's been linked to Real Madrid as well.
Fantastic guy. He was a guy that we wanted to get. You understand? But Gravenberch has now been positioned to become one of the best number 6, not in Europe, but in the whole world at the moment. That is so. My point to Oluwasuni is that you guys are playing tomorrow at 4:30, right?
That goal has been chopped off. VAR really down for offside. So go on.
Oh, okay.
So
fantastic.
It's Brentford 0, Aston Villa.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah. Okay, that's fantastic. So
It's good for us to tell our viewers and let them know as we're going.
Yes, so
Absolutely.
yes,
Let them
thank you
live.
so much. Thank you so much. Now tomorrow you guys are playing Manchester United, right?
Manchester United. Glory, glory, Man United.
Liverpool, Liverpool are 16 points ahead of you guys, right? If you play a draw, just you have 2 games in hand, right? So the scenario is that if you won your 2 games in hand, you still have to battle 10 points,
10 points.
from Liverpool, short fall. Now, the point is that you don't have any margin for error. If you play a draw, it's 15 points. Ahead. What is going to happen tomorrow? Where are you now? Can Ateta undo this? Can the players undo this without Saka, without Havertz, and without some of these guys that you're missing?
I always have 2 answers to each of your questions. my my first answer, which is what would help me sleep well tonight and possibly help me watch the match without my wife monitoring my blood pressure, is that we shall see. We shall see. And my second answer is that, you see, what is important for Arteta and for the boys is to know that come rain, come shine, we Arsenal fans are behind them, and we wish them good luck. That's pretty much what it is. And you see, look, there is a basis for both responses. One is there is absolutely nothing any of the 4 of us here can do to change what's going to happen tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one. Two is that there is a lot in the hands of the boys. Their mental states, their preparedness, their psyche, and all of that, and the coach as well, and the rest of the team. And they don't need any distractions. And if I was Arteta, to be honest, I would have turned off my phone, social media, newspapers, and all that, radio. I'll have turned it off the last 3 or 4 days leading up to the match. They don't need any of the distractions. Let's let them do their jobs. And that is against the backdrop of the fact that we all know that Arteta knows what he needs to do to change the fortunes of the club. It's too late to do that this season, but let's hope good sense. I don't know if that's actually correct, but let's hope that common sense actually prevails and it does the needful at the end of the season and in the lead up to the next season. But yes, tomorrow we shall see.
Let me add to that. Let me add to that, Jason, before Larry will speak, so that I won't forget. I think tomorrow's match, the owners is an Arteta to win that match. Why do I say that? Like as soon as said, coming from the background of the superb win that they had in the UCL, there is no pressure on them for the second leg. So if I were to be Arteta, I'm going to put up a very strong first 11 in tomorrow's game, because there is no miracle that PSV can do, to overturn that result of the first leg. So Arsenal have everything going for them. Going to this match tomorrow against Manchester City. And that's the truth. Because even Manchester United will have pressure on them. They're going to play on Thursday. They still play on Thursday football. If you look at the level of preparedness, how the player recovery and all sorts, Arsenal is in a good position to win tomorrow's match, because the Champions League on Wednesday, as far as I'm concerned, Arsenal has qualified for the quarterfinal. They are only waiting, for the landlord of UCL, Real Madrid FC, which I know that's going to be appearing hopefully in the quarterfinals, because I know Real Madrid should be able to do justice, in the second leg at Riyadh here, Metropolitan Stadium. That's our neighbor, Atletico Madrid. So for Arsenal, tomorrow's match is a must win for them. If they still want to have hope for the title race for the season, there is no excuse. There is no excuse. There is no excuse at all, because Wednesday, it's sort of like Larry Zamoje will say, it's done and certain. You understand? So tomorrow Arteta must put, must give
So
us,
I'm going to
a
go
good
to
starting
Larry.
11.
I'm going to go to Larry. Thank you for that. Larry, in answering
Yes,
those
please.
questions about tomorrow, are you Arteta out or Arteta in?
No, Ateta in. Ateta in. Definitely
Arteta in.
Ateta. Yeah, because
Why
yes,
do you say
I
that?
have my okay. Let me just say this. Ateta has performed beyond my expectation. Don't forget that he's a sorcerer apprentice. So he came from Pep. In fact, he was trained by Pep more than he was trained by Arsene Wenger, because his coaching career, I would say that, has a lot to do with Guardiola, not necessarily the club he has played for before. And I can tell you this, that when people are saying that Ateta out, and I'm asking, which coach are you thinking of to replace him now? I mean, the truth about, I know the problem with Ateta. In fact, some technical issues that are picked with Ateta, and I don't like to make comparison. I've seen that for someone like Mourinho could change a player even just 10 minutes into a game. If he does not fit in into his plan, he just remove and bring somebody else. Ateta will not do that. And I've seen also that, like Aizara said earlier, the whole problem started during summer opening, when they were supposed to pick critical players, I mean, that we needed, the Arsenal squad needed. But he was investing more in players on the left side, back left, and maybe just the back line players. He brought in quite a number of players. But unfortunately, we could all see that that couldn't get them far. But I must commend him that he has been able to manage what would have been a total disaster very well. What is Guardiola crying all about? He said, "Give me back my player." Who is he referring to? Rodri, just a player out. Arsenal has the whole four front line out of the game for the past couple of weeks. In the past couple of weeks now, there was no Saka, there was no Havertz, there was no Martinelli, no, and one other guy out there.
Odegaard.
Okay, Jesus
Oh, okay.
has been out. So how has he been able to cope? That should be what we should be looking at. I understand that, okay, you are talking about over 700 million invested. Come on. If you're talking about amount invested, what will you be saying about Chelsea? What will you be talking about Manchester United? Don't forget that Eric Ten Hag said something. He said, eras do come to an end. Unfortunately for Era to have come to an end, then it was his own assignment
Era
with
that came
Manchester
to an end.
United that came to an end. Nevertheless, we are seeing what his prophecy is actually manifesting now. That, okay, Klopp went away with that victory, but Pep Guardiola has not been so lucky. His era is looking like, oh, it's coming to an end indeed. So we can look at it from that point. But then let's see. What I'm more interested in is that I've already given up. Not that I've given up the season really, but Arsenal can still end the season fighting. But it doesn't look realistic to hope that Arsenal will overturn that deficit. We overturned that about 15 points deficit. However, I would say that it will be a thing of pride tomorrow to crush Manchester United, which I can see that that is exactly what is going to happen. Yes, I can see Manchester United being torn to shreds because the players are still. I can still see they are still the momentum of last match against PSV can still be sustained because they don't have to dissipate energy against PSV in the second leg.
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, academy player can actually do that.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you guys so much. We're just about 10 minutes left, and you have given your verdict on what's going to happen. Tomorrow. We've seen today's games. It's obvious. One thing that I would like to point out is that I am quite happy that outsiders, clubs that we believe that outsiders to the top four are actually staking their claim, to that spot, and that is Nottingham Forest. And for people like us, we know that Nottingham Forest is not a small club. They are two times, Champions League winners, albeit in the 70s. And yeah, so we love them that they're coming back. So it's not the traditional teams, that are in there. But for the last 10 minutes that we've got, some of our viewers have said we need to discuss the issue of Jamie Carragher and the faux pas that he made about African Cup of Nations and the Ballon d'Or. So basically, everyone was saying that there's no excuse for Mohamed Salah not to be given the Ballon d'Or because this season, I don't know where it came from. It's just been breaking records after records after records. And at what age is it? Inching towards 33, and he's already 33. I mean, this kind of numbers that he's producing is out of this world. And the only guy that can actually, compete with him is the Real Madrid. What's his name now? The Real Madrid, player. Uh,
Vinicius Junior, Kylian
Vinicius Junior.
Mbappe.
Vinicius
Kylian
Junior.
Mbappe is there
Mbappe,
too. Kylian is there.
Mbappe is not anywhere near the kind of figures that Salah is bringing, but Vinicius and that. Anyways, now I think that there is some kind of condescension, and I don't know if it's racism that we call it about pundits in the UK, talking down African Cup of Nations, African players, because I think one of the problems that we had with Arsenal and some of the clubs is over the period of 10 years, they developed this narrative that if you sign an African player, they're going to go away for 2 weeks in January. But we know that if you sign Brazilian players, they go away for some time to play in the Copa America. If you sign English players like Bayern signed, Harry Kane, he's also going to go away and play for his own national team. And I remember one of the Arsenal legend was questioning why supporters will be asking African players whether they're going to go and honor African Cup of Nations call-up. Are they going to go away? I mean, it's so disrespectful in the light of what African players have done to make the EPL, the brand that it is today. So in the week, another player, ex-player, came out in defense. Anyway, Carragher was given the opportunity to make his defense, and he still did not offer any apologies. And not other players are saying, "Oh, we don't see why." I think they've asked us to speak about it, and I'm going to start with Oluwasuni. What do you think about this disrespect that is going around, to African players?
So I'll speak to Mr. Carragher directly. F up, sir. I
Yeah.
think F up, sir. You are smoking your socks. You are deeply racist. You are deeply disrespectful. You potentially believe that something makes you superior to Africans, and the truth is that you're not, and you are better served by being humble or with humility than going around and talking down people. What's the EPL without black players? What's the EPL without Africans? I know my brother here has delineated between Africans from Africa and Africans of European extraction. But the truth is that what's the EPL without black people? What's sport globally without black people? Show me one sport that black people are not dominating, and I would explain to you politely that black people are just about to dominate that sport. So please get over yourself, sir. I know I'm not a man of your stature when it comes to the subject matter and all that, but I'm just talking to you from a point of common sense, simple common sense, and I'm asking for dissent. That's just it. And I think Mikel Obi best echoes my sentiments. And yeah, so but politely, I'd like to say to you, sir, please f off. Um, Two is Jesse and the other gentlemen here. We need to make African football a lot more attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Compared to the South American variant, I think it's not marketed well enough. It's not seen for the quality that it really is.
Yes.
And Mr. Jesse, I know you've done a lot of work in marketing and advertising. You know that there's no point having the best product in the world and nobody knows about it,
Mm-hmm.
or people don't have the right information about it. So I think it's high time that we started to elevate. I always in the past I always complain about marketing budgets, but I think this is probably the first or second time in my life that I'm going to say that we need to spend more money showcasing African football. And not just at the continental level. I think great football happens on the streets of Lagos every Saturday and Sunday mornings. It is time that we start to show that to the world. Maybe that way we would end the empathy of people
Mm-hmm.
other than Carrigan, who probably is damaged goods, and there's nothing we can do about him. But true lovers of football who ask their players, can't you just fake being sick or being injured so you don't have to go and all of that? Maybe by the time they see what African football really is about, perhaps the quality and all of that, perhaps they would empathize with us, and perhaps they would also respect African football and African footballing competitions that players
Competitions.
in the professional leagues needs to participate in. So that's it. But I still would like to close with Mr. Carrigan. Get
F
out of my
off.
screen.
Thank you. ISR, what do you have to say about that?
Well, for me,
Yeah.
well, I respect, I love my roots. And like Mr. Asuni rightly said, without wasting much time, I support what he has said. But I want to ask Mr. Jimmy Carragher this question. What is the importance of UEFA Nations League? Maybe you talk about that. That has contributed a lot to the injuries of a lot of players. That competition is a nonsense competition as far as I'm concerned. You have an European nations, like European Nations Cup, like we have African Cup of Nations. You look at that. When you look at it, I know all of us in the studio today will look at it.
Yeah.
Why are they not complaining about that? This is only one competition that unites Africans together.
Africa.
So what's the ask yourself, Jesse? What's the importance of UEFA Nations League that they brought? What's the importance? And that is part of the things that contributed to the injuries of these sub-core players like Havertz, like Saka, because that competition is unnecessary.
Children.
And they are not talking about that. And that is the discrimination we are talking about. They are not talking about that. They are talking about a competition that European scouts, Premier League clubs comes and they scout a lot of players.
Mm-hmm.
And like Alsoni said, if they are not projecting this for us, we should project it ourselves.
Ourselves.
I've always told people, as far as I'm concerned, football, football, till tomorrow, till Christ will come, football will always have its roots in South America and in Africa. That is where the talent is. European football
Right.
is basically academy. They taught them, kick it here, kick it there. But back in Africa and South America, it's raw talent. And you might agree, you might disagree with me. That is why La Liga will still be one of the best league in the world.
Yeah.
That is because you see in La Liga, you see 60% South American players there, raw talent. They are not taught in classes. Like Asuni said, they are taught on the street, they are taught on beaches, in trenches, in South America, in Africa. And that's why you will never compare African players, South Africa. And that's why you see Real Madrid. We always go to Brazil to start our players because that is where talent lies.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you
That's the
so
Yes.
much.
source.
Thank you so much.
So
Because of our
I won't
time.
say it. I won't say it in the language you used to say it. Back there in UK, because that is what gave Jude Bellingham problem. He got retired. But
I
what
know, I
Mr.
know.
Anthony said, F
So
off.
quickly,
Well, I think for me
quickly,
too,
let's go
Jimmy
to Mr.
Carragher,
Larry.
F off.
I'm sure Mr. Larry has one or two words for Jamie Carragher, or you want to speak on this issue
Very
that was
polite
raised.
words, I'm sure.
Well, well, let me just put it in perspective. You see, these people will not change the way they see Africans. There is nothing we
Yeah.
can say.
Yeah.
I saw Joel Barton he came out to defend Jeremy, and he didn't even know African players. That's the funny thing is that he didn't even know players that were better than Jeremy Carragher. All these players that I think Kufor or something, Kufor and the likes, he didn't know their contribution to football. But like
Mm.
my brother said, that we should market African football, African football. But before we market, like I'm doing a report now on inventory optimization. There are some things that if you don't display, you understand, the customers might assume that you don't have it.
Yep.
Mm.
You, that you
Yeah.
don't have. They might just come in, check the shelf, and they just say, "Oh, maybe let me go to the other store." Now,
Yep.
the
That's true.
truth is that before we talk
Yep.
about the marketing, we must talk about investment. We
Yep.
hear
Yes.
Nigeria, for instance, we hear about people maybe on social media, maybe social media is lying, boasting that they have 10 billion, 100 billion, and the money is just going into things that we cannot even understand why. So if we begin to invest, like the days of stationery stores, like the days of all those
Flaming.
defunct, all those
Abiola,
defunct
Abiola
golf
babes.
clubs.
Abiola babes.
And
Lemon trees.
there were
Yeah.
people, elderly people in Nigeria,
Shooting.
who would rather die
Rangers. Yes.
watching those
IICC.
players.
Rangers.
There, there was a
Rangers
man called
International Benedim.
Babeleron
Yes.
in
In
Ibadan.
Ibadan.
Watching,
Yes.
I
IICC.
mean, shooting
Shooting.
star. He was
Off
ready. He was
shooting.
ready to die. He was ready to be taken there dead. Can we bring that passion back to our own
Yeah.
football? Where is
The glory
Jamie?
days.
Unfortunately, he's a guy that has scored more own goal than has made sense in football. So let me leave you there and let's.
Jason, is that correct?
Yes, it's got
Jason.
at the last count, I think he's about 8 own goals that he scored against Liverpool. And
Liverpool
to
legend.
just buttress what you're saying, when they came in defense of him, Joey Barton was saying, can you name an African, defender that is better than Jamie Carragher? I said, whoa, have they heard about Taribo West? This is
Hmm.
European winning. This guy played for Inter Milan in the days that the
Kufo
headquarters
Bayern.
of football
Kufo
was in Milan.
of
Osei
Bayern.
Kufo. He's
Osei
not heard
Kufo.
about Osei Kufo. What about our own Captain Fantastic? He's not
Yes,
heard about
Joseph Miobo.
not
Joseph
just
Miobo.
not Joseph Yobo. I'm even talking about the coach that took us
Baba,
to
Babayaro
Stephen
was there.
Keshi.
Stephen Keshi.
Let Stephen Keshi.
Stephen
Celestin
Keshi. Yeah.
Babayaru.
So,
Celestin Babayaru. Austin
in
Eguavo.
fact,
Celestine
Uche
Babayaro.
Celestine
Okechukwu.
Babayaro's record,
Uche Okechukwu. Uche Okusuku.
Gentle
He's not in
Giants,
the World Cup.
the Gentle
The
Giants.
Gentle Giant.
So,
The Gentle
look,
Giant.
I agree with everything that all of you have said. Yeah. In the issue of marketing and all of that, let's not forget that, yeah, a lot of the things about Africa is dominated by foreigners who do not
Yeah.
show Africans the importance of what they've got. Just like
Yeah.
you said, I know that the last African nations, when they did the analysis, reached about 2.2 billion audience. The last one in Senegal. In fact,
In
if you know,
in Ivory Coast. In
we
Cote
also
d'Ivoire.
sent, in Ivory Coast.
Yeah,
More sports, we sent a reporter, a well-known reporter,
great
Wale
competition.
Opatola.
Wale
Wale
Opatola.
Opatola was in a Abidjan on behalf of more sports. So we covered it in the way
Wow,
that we could.
good guy.
And one of the reasons why we are here is also that we don't need to wait for all these big money media houses before we put our own voices out there. So I want to thank you guys for speaking, on that. That's why more sport is also here. And also we want to discuss the African involvement in global sports. So if people go to our website, that's what they're going to see there. You're going to see I'm working also on a story about a great African athlete, from Uganda at the moment. So yeah, we will get there. But what is instructive that I took away from this is that politically we need to also get the word out there, because if you remember, we all grew up in the era of Jakonde and Awolowo and stuff, and during that time, in every neighborhood in Nigeria, they created like a football playing field, like a sports,
Yeah,
center,
the park.
and
Yeah, park.
that time that is where all of this raw talent came out from. You understand? I knew in your school you must know someone who is a wizard at playing football. In fact, I knew a
Principal
guy
call,
in my school.
principal call, principal
Yeah,
call.
in my school there's a guy that is called Omo Bo. They name him the son of Bo. Do you understand? That's how talented he was.
It was.
And
Wow.
so I think those are the things that we need to bring back. Just like Mr. Asuni said, any sports that you don't find Africans excelling at is because they've not been introduced to that sport yet.
Yeah.
So on that note, I want to thank you all for making today's edition, a fantastic one. Mr. Suni, thank you so much.
You're welcome,
ISR,
sir.
thank you so much.
We're
And
wishing, we're
Larry,
wishing. I know you might not wish them the best, but I'm wishing Arsenal the best tomorrow. Super Sunday. Wishing Mr. Sonny and Larry. Mr. Sonny and Larry, I wish you all the best tomorrow. Super Sunday.
I
Thank
am
you.
Liverpool. I'm not wishing them. I'm wishing them a draw. That's my best I can wish them. Yeah.
I'm wishing them, Mr. Sonny, I'm wishing you the best tomorrow.
I'm
God
wishing you a
bless.
draw tomorrow, Mr. Suni. So
Arsenal
thank
is
you.
I can
winning,
hear
you
you.
know, tough.
And then we thank you,
I
our
can hear you, Mr.
viewers. Thank
Jason.
you for
Oh,
staying with
Mr.
us.
People, I can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's do
Thank
this
you.
again next week. All right. See
Yes,
ya.
guys.
Okay,
Take care.
all right, bye. Thank you.
All right.
God
Take care.
bless you.
Bye. Bye.
Take care, man.
Okay, I've stopped the live stream. Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
I stopped.